this video, I'm going to go over some common problems and easy fixes for the Jeep Wrangler JK and address a few things that my new to me 2012 Jeep Wrangler absolutely needed. So the first thing I wanted to address, because it was putting the Jeep into limp home mode, was the sway bar light. So I used an AEV ProCal to turn off the sway bar motor and then started doing my research on trying to figure out why this wasn't working. Now, my initial problem, it appeared to be that the motor itself had seized up. Now, the one I'm holding in my hand is actually one for a JL and JT, and what I was hoping is that I could just swap out a newer one with the JK. Unfortunately, the plugs are not backwards compatible for the JK platform, so my extra smart bar motor wasn't going to do me any good. Now, before I went and purchased another sway bar, from Facebook Marketplace, I wanted to see if I had an issue with the gears on the inside. So I went ahead and pulled apart the whole sway bar, got it off of the Jeep, and pulled apart the assembly where the disconnect feature is, and lo and behold, it definitely had a lot of mud and rust, and it was an absolute mess. The seals on this sway bar assembly from the factory are not great, and with the age and use of this Jeep, I wasn't shocked to find that it was not looking too good in there. So cleaned everything up, actually used a wire wheel to just go in and try to get as much surface rust off as I could. Used a bit of sandpaper to clean it up, and then I reassembled everything using a waterproof grease, and that was it. I have had good luck with that in the past, and all I needed to make sure is that mechanism could move back and forth, so I knew that part wasn't seized. Once I did that, I bolted it back up, and I had to make the decision, did I want to go chase and get another smart bar motor, or did I want to go with something, in my opinion, a bit simpler and I would say superior? And I went with the direction that I've had better luck with in the past, and that's putting a manual disconnect knob. No, you don't get to hit the button anymore, but you never have to worry about it automatically reconnecting at 20 miles an hour or failing on you. So the knob that you see here is a really inexpensive one I picked up from Amazon. I think it was like 35 bucks, and it bolts to the factory sway bar assembly and essentially just uses a spring just like this does to put pressure on the sway bar disconnect. So when you thread it in, that's what's going to disconnect your sway bar, and I love it. It's really simple. These I'll call them cheaper ones, don't have anything to capture the rod from coming all the way out, and so what I do is use a small snap ring to thread onto it. I think it's a 7/8 snap ring, and that keeps it from unthreading all the way out of the housing, and it works perfectly fine. To test it, I just used a floor jack and cycled it a few times to make sure that it would connect and reconnect and not have an issue, and it worked perfectly fine. Medium sketchy, yes, but no issues. So the sway bar is fixed. I don't have to worry about it looking for the sway bar disconnect anymore. So if you are having problems, the main thing to take away is a JL and JT smart bar motor will not work on a JK, and if you just want to bypass and actually, in my opinion, make it a little bit easier, you can do so for less than 40 bucks, which is an absolute plus. Now, this Jeep's got 144,000 miles on it, and with that comes a bit of wear and tear on the interior. Now, I don't want to say there was a lot of problems with the inside of the Jeep, just a few things that needed to be addressed that really didn't cost that much money, so let's go through them. The first thing that was driving me crazy is the fact that this Jeep, like many other used JKs, had saggy nets. All of the nets were hanging down far. Someone had zip tied them up. It looked horrible. Now, there are a lot of little knick-knack things on the aftermarket, little Amazon door pockets that you can replace them with. I just never put anything inside of the door. So if you're like me and you never do that, I recommend just taking a razor blade and give it a little pull and cut the nets out. It looks so much cleaner. To me, it's a quick fix, and you can even cut out the one that's right here in front of the shifter. The second thing, and it's a common issue on the JK, is that the plastic tumblers that attach to the sun visors tend to break, and the ones we're missing on this, and all you have to do is bend the rod out of the original sun visor, you slide over the tube, put the rod back in, and it clicks right in, and no more rattle sun visor. It is an easy fix. I will put a link in the description of the video with the ones that I used. I think it was like a 12 pack that came. Those were sort of the two really inexpensive things that I just addressed immediately. The other stuff that I wanted to address had to do with sort of the interior. The first thing is the Jeep didn't really have any floor liners in it. I got these floor liners from Rough Country. They're pretty good at being easy to clean out, and for me, you know, taking stuff off-road and going to the beach, I want something that I can really quickly and easily hose out, so that's why I grabbed these. While I was perusing the Rough Country website, I also saw that they had seat covers, and that was one thing I was really torn about with this Jeep. I love the peanut butter leather look, but the passenger and driver seat bottoms were pretty worn, and I have had neoprene covers in the past, and that's what these are. I actually had a set of like wet O'Kelly's years ago on my Grand Cherokee, and I love the comfort, but you do get a lot of heat. They trap a lot of heat, and the wet O'Kelly's were very expensive. When I saw the Rough Countries were like $260, I was like, wow, that's for a full set of seat covers? I was like, okay, this is definitely worth taking a gamble on, and I like them. They fit on the seat really well. They look nice. They don't have like a weird odor. Getting in and out of them to me added a bit of comfort to kind of an older, harder seat. So very stoked on that. Now, a super common issue on the Jeep Wrangler JK, and one I had a feeling that was going to be something I had to address, is a bent rear axle shaft flange. Now, this Jeep is running a 37 by 1350 Nitto mud grappler, and it's on a wheel with 3.5 inches of back spacing. Fantastic for off-roading, but that is quite the step up from what this Jeep axle was engineered for. And when you're going off-road and you're really putting some power down and you're climbing stuff, it can overwhelm the axle shaft flange, and it's not uncommon to have one bent. Now, a way to tell if you have a bent rear axle shaft just from driving perspective is if you start to feel that you have a pulse in your brake. So let's say you're driving to the trail, Jeep was driving fine, and on the way home, suddenly you've got a new pulse coming, some feedback in your brake pedal, and you're getting a bit of a chirp. Those are telltale signs that you have bent a rear axle shaft flange. And a great way to see this visually is pull off your tires and wheels from the rear and take the axle shaft by hand and spin it. If you see your caliper plunging, going back and forth at like a high-low spot, that is a great indicator that you have a bent rear flange. I knew this was probably an issue, and I was prepared to not only upgrade but do both axles at the same time, because I don't know if these are the original axle shafts or not. So I ended up ordering a set of 4340 chromoly replacement axle shafts from a company called Revolution Gear and Axle. They're actually a US-owned, veteran-owned drivetrain company. They make drive shafts, they make differential gears, they make complete replacement axle shafts. Keep in mind, if you do have a Rubicon, they are different length axle shafts, so you gotta make sure you're ordering the right thing. The Revolution ones come already assembled. The only thing that you have to put together is the studs. These retail for a little over $500 for a full set of chromoly axle shafts that are ready to bolt in. To me, that's a very good value. And what you'll also see is I didn't go back with the stock brakes, and let me talk to you a little bit more about why I did that. In my experience, the JK platform benefits greatly from a braking upgrade once you get to a 37-inch tall tire. Some of you may recall my 2013 JK Rubicon, in which I outfitted with a Dynatrac ProGrip brake kit back in 2018. The biggest advantage of this kit over others on the market is that it includes larger front and rear rotors. These will also clear a 17-inch wheel, so you don't have to move up wheel sizes. The larger rotors increase the braking performance by 30% compared to a JK on 37s with stock brakes. Given that it's larger rotors at all four corners, the braking is more balanced over a single front brake upgrade. The kit comes with new caliper brackets to accommodate the larger rotors, as well as new brake pads. Since the kit retains the stock calipers, it doesn't require a master cylinder upgrade and maintains an excellent pedal feel. It's also a super quick install. The cost of this kit is a little over $1,300, which isn't chump change, but it's one of the few upgrades that you can make to your Jeep that you will actually benefit from daily. After years of excellent performance with my previous JK, which you see on the screen now, I told myself if I ever had a JK again, I would absolutely do this upgrade, regardless if I was going to do any rock crawling or not, because the on-road benefits of this kit were so impactful that it's absolutely worth it. Now, one thing that you may notice that's missing is the spare tire. So when I picked up this Jeep, it had a Smittybilt XRC rear tire carrier on it, and I could tell that it was already sagging a bit and not striking the bumpers on the back. It was a bit rattly and honestly just driving me crazy. So I decided I didn't know what rear bumper I wanted to do to change it out with, but I knew that that was going to be a problem. So I said, why don't I just get rid of it? So I pulled off the spare tire, unbolted the tire carrier, and then took a Sawzall, cut the pivot point off and cut the latch point off here, went with a flap disc, ground a little bit down where just to make it a little bit cleaner, and then I took some Krylon flat paint after I cleaned up the bumper and got all the shavings off, and I roll painted the back bumper with a flat Krylon acrylic, and I think it looks good enough. I didn't have to relocate the license plate, but I went ahead and got, it's just only cost a couple bucks from Amazon, that replaces the what would be the hole here to pop out the original license plate mount, and then I've got these plugs that came with it to fill out the holes in the back of the tailgate. This is a plate relocation from Evo Manufacturing, so you can put your license plate in the back. I think it cleans up the back, very inexpensive overall, sort of upgrade for those of you that are going, well, now you don't have a spare tire, dummy. What are you going to do? I cannot believe how many comments I get online where I've showed this on like Instagram and stuff, and everybody's like, oh, it's a mall crawler. Only mall crawlers don't have spare tires. I'm just going to say this, a 37 fits in the cargo area of a JK, so calm down. If I'm going to go drive across the country, which I've done before, and go do the Rubicon Trail, yeah, I'll probably put the spare tire in the back. For local wheeling trips and driving around, no, I'm not going to carry the spare with me. I always have plugs. I can pack a small compressor in the back. They make glue tread. They make lots of things to make it where you can safely get off the trail if you have a flat tire. I've been running Nitto tires for as long as I can remember, and I've never had one fail on the trail, knock on wood. So I think if you go with a quality tire, you're less likely to have to worry about that. If you're worried about picking up something on the road, that's typically going to be a nail. Carry a plug kit, carry an air compressor, not a big deal. If you're worried about ripping a sidewall, don't buy a cheap tire. I mean, it can happen, to any tire, but I found that it's less likely if you've got something that's a really good durable tire. Yes, if you cut a sidewall, it's a pain in the butt, but there are things like glue tread out there that all you really need is to be able to scuff the outside of the sidewall. You put your glue tread on and you're good to go. If you've got a bead lock like I do, you can always take apart that outside ring, get in, hopefully if it's inner, or it doesn't really matter, outer, and you can actually seal it that way. There are ways to get off the trail and get home if you get a flat. I'm not advocating for not having a spare tire or against it. I'm just saying I like how this cleans up the look. It had a crappy rear tire carrier on it that rattled. I didn't want that anymore. This doesn't mean that I'll never have a spare tire mount back here. It just means this is how my setup is for now, and I'm stoked on it. So that's what I got. Now, I do think it's worth mentioning that when I picked up this JK, I already knew that it had a handful of problems. These aren't necessarily big surprises, and all of that was essentially reflected in the price that I invested for the vehicle. And I think if you're looking for a used JK and you sort of plan on, okay, it could have these problems, and you're willing to do the work yourself, it's really not a bad platform to get into. A lot of the things and upgrades are pretty inexpensive for these things. There's so much aftermarket support. You don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to make these things really reliable and work well off-road. If you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I've got a lot more stuff coming to this, some upgrades that I just want to do, and some mods that I really think it could benefit from. So if you're enjoying this journey, please come on, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. It really helps. If you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments, or you can find me at all social media at Ali Mansour Editor. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope to see you on the trail. Take care.